Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Help Is Here podcast brought to you by the Beyond Compulsion Academy. Yesterday I went and met up with a friend of mine. He's a videographer and I was really keen to do a video together at some point. But he's a little bit busy at the minute. He's got one or two things on. And we started talking about spending too much time on social media. So social media has evolved and changed massively since I first started using it. I remember the days of Facebook where everyone on Facebook were like your friends from school, and you do a LPC. It was like personality closeness. Like you'd give each other like this rating out of 10 based on like how good your looks were, what your personality rating was, and how close you were. And we do like all these weird little challenges, and it was like fun. I don't know, that was me growing up anyway. But essentially, with Facebook, there were people on there that I knew. And like, I'd only really communicate with people I knew. Maybe you'd get the odd friend request from some weird person from a school nearby or someone in the year above or whatever. But other than that, you knew the people. Nowadays, Facebook isn't like that, and I don't think any of the social media platforms are like that. Instead, you go on your feed and you're seeing all kinds of random stuff. It's like news articles and ads, and then more news articles and way more ads. And it's just a bit of a mess, to be truly honest. And I think most of the stuff on people's feed is just there trying to grab your attention, and you don't even know the person who's posted it. And it does grab your attention, and then everyone's competing for your attention, and it's just one big mess. It's one big mess, right? So social media, I'm not a fan at all. I choose not to use it, or maybe I should say I choose to do other things with my time. It's maybe a better way of putting it. But a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are really, really struggling, having their attention sort of robbed from them because they don't have an understanding of the addicted part of their minds. They've got this problem that they really want to engage in this compulsive behaviour, but they've not been taught how to deal with that desire. And therefore, they're getting into this complete conflict where part of them wants to go on social media and scroll, but also a part of them doesn't want to go on social media and scroll, and then they're not even actually enjoying scrolling anymore, and they're just like hooked. They're just doing it almost out of habit because their brain has rewired. But it's not necessarily a habit. I'd go so far as to say it's actually an addiction nowadays, and people aren't even aware that they're addicted because it's just so normalised. So anyone has, a break in their day, maybe they're on the tram or they're on the train or some other public transport, or they're just doing something else with their time and they've got a bit of time to kill as such. Maybe they're sat on the toilet and they're there scrolling on social media. But it doesn't feel good, and the more they do it, the more they want to do it, and then they end up wasting time, and hours pass by, and they end up being just super frustrated, like, oh my god, how have I spent this much time on social media again? So my mate yesterday, who I met up with to talk about doing this video with, he was sharing how he had a bit of a problem with social media. He wanted to overcome this problem. And we were talking about this screen limiting app, which he's been using for a little while, and he was considering upgrading because he really, really wanted to overcome this problem. And the upgrade cost something like £89, I think it was, maybe £90. And essentially it would help him block out these certain apps and websites from his phone so that he could manage and control his use of his phone more effectively. It sounds fairly sensible, right? But I said to him, look, I know people don't really like to be given advice, but on this occasion, would it be okay if I gave you a bit of advice here? Because really, based on my understanding of addiction, based on my experience of working with a lot of clients who have been addicted, I don't think this is necessarily the best idea, and let me explain why. So the two main things that came to my mind were, feelings of deprivation and then feelings of helplessness. So basically, if you have an app which is restricting your use of certain apps, then you're going to feel deprived. You're going to feel like you want to go on that app, but now you can't because you've placed this artificial illusion of restriction on yourself. It doesn't actually exist because surely there's a way around this app. Like surely there's some way to delete this app or something to access this app that you want to go on. Or maybe you can just like go on it elsewhere, like log into your computer and then start scrolling on Facebook or whatever. So you've got these feelings of deprivation. There's this thing you want to do. You feel like you can't do it. It's not even true. So it's like it's just false. Like, it's not true that you can't go on this app, even though there is another app like restricting you from going on the app, if that makes sense. So first of all, yeah, feelings of deprivation, they feel terrible, and you're going to want to get out of them. So let's say your screen limiter comes to an end, your hours up of being restricted. You're then going to want to go on it even more, so you're actually intermittently reinforcing those addictive neural pathways. It's going to feel great going back on this app that you've been restricted of for a while, and then you're going to eventually block yourself and try go back on it again after a while, and it's just this back and forth. It's not really any good place to be, like, who wants to spend their time like always thinking about being on an app and then being restricted from being on the app? And like, even in my conversation with my mate yesterday, there's a few times he wanted to show me stuff on his phone, but because of this app, he was like restricted from accessing certain apps to show me like these videos and cool stuff that he'd created. So anyway, that's the first thing, deprivation. Second thing, helplessness. So it's so disempowering to believe you don't actually have control over your own choices, and you need some external regulation to manage your own choices. It's like, you're not a child anymore. Like, you're an adult. You can make decisions for yourself. You do have a choice. You don't have to spend all your time scrolling on social media. That is an option. That's a choice. No one's ever going to take away that choice and option. And maybe you'll even want to do that. In fact, you probably will. But just because of that, just because you've got that wanting, just because you have the desire to do something, doesn't mean you have to act on that desire. Like, we've all had desires to do certain things and not acted on them. It's just nowadays it's been completely normalised to act on our desires in relation to social media use and other things like maybe overeating and stuff like that. So we've got to kind of make it not normal in our minds, like shift it from being like normal to just be like, oh, I want to go on Facebook, oh, it's fine, and then just go on Facebook, to, oh, I want to go on Facebook. Wait, if I go on Facebook, I'm going to want to go on Facebook again and again and again, and hours are going to pass by. Because what you got to realise is, you go on social media once, you're going to want to go on it again and again and again. It's never just once. That's probably one of the biggest realities to face, I'd say, when it comes to addiction. It's just understanding that when you do something once, you are going to want to do it again, because the brain changes in that way. So, we've had loads of guys like in our program who have said to us, well, if I were to use my script for every single compulsive desire, I'd be using it 100 times a day. And it's like, well, that's not actually true, because if you used it for that first desire, then you're not going to have that desire 99 times more throughout the day, because you've actually dealt with the desire. The thing is, people aren't dealing with their compulsive desire, and so it feels like it lasts forever, because they just got this feeling of desire, but they're not even aware of it, and they're not connecting to it at all. So anyway, deprivation, helplessness, screen limits, blockers, any of those sort of things, they're going to be really, really detrimental in the long term. And I would urge anyone to stay far away from placing some like external, like third party method to try and overcome an addiction. It's just not going to work. And it's just so based in helplessness, because you're then conditioning your brain that you don't have control over yourself and you need some blocker externally. So, yeah, leave it out instead. Start to retrain your brain to think in a different way. And when you think in a different way, you're going to feel a different way. When you feel a different way, you're going to act a different way. And it's going to feel really, really good. You're going to feel completely in control. You're going to feel like, yeah, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. I know consequences. I know what's going to happen if I do something once. And then just make your choices and be a free person, That's what I want for everyone. So hopefully this short little podcast video helps. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.